All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're unpacking a fascinating explainer looking at a massive game changer for 3D workflows, how the wildly popular AI model Claude has directly integrated with the powerhouse software Blender. If you work in 3D, you know the learning curve is steep, and those repetitive tasks can be totally draining. Well, the landscape is shifting rapidly, and we're looking at a tool that could completely alter how we approach 3D creation. Now that's a seriously bold claim, right? It comes straight from 3D creator The Blender Render, who didn't just take this integration at face value. They put this brand new tool through an absolute gauntlet, testing the real-world limits of what this AI could actually accomplish in a professional workflow. We're talking complex asset generation, animation, and on-the-fly coding.
To keep things moving, we've broken this down into a quick capabilities audit. We'll hit AI meets Blender, the 5-minute setup, where Claude shines, where it struggles, and finally, the verdict. Let's go.
Section 1. AI meets Blender. Let's look at the tech actually making this possible. So the secret sauce here? It's called the Model Context Protocol, or MCP. Think of it like a direct neural link between the AI and your Blender workspace. Instead of the old routine where you copy and paste code from a browser, MCP literally allows Claude to look at your screen, interact with your file, and execute commands directly. You can just prompt the AI to generate assets or edit complex textures on the fly. It's basically like having a digital assistant sitting right next to you, operating the mouse and keyboard based on your verbal commands. Moving right along to Section 2, the 5-minute setup. You might think this requires a computer science degree, but the creator actually condensed the setup into 3 super quick steps. First up, just make sure you're running Blender 5.1 or higher. Then, grab the Claude desktop app or Claude Code. Finally, just drag and drop the MCP extension right in your workspace. Literally, that's it. So user-friendly. Once that extension is dropped in, you just check the box to enable localhost in Blender's preferences. Then, pop over to Claude's developer settings, find the Blender connector, and hit Install. To prove it was working, the creator gave Claude the most iconic Blender command of all time: delete the default cube, and boom, it vanished flawlessly. All right, Section 3, where Claude shines. Let's talk about what actually worked. Honestly, Claude pulled off some jaw-dropping stuff here. We're talking a full, cozy living room scene generated from scratch in just 2 minutes. But get this, it also used clip vision to literally read screenshots of the workspace. The creator showed it a basic Lego Darth Vader, and Claude actually recognized the chess piece and lightsaber, then successfully slapped on these incredibly realistic dirt and scratch textures. Oh, and you know those messy, unnamed files we all have? It took a wildly chaotic helicopter file and perfectly sorted all the geometry into neat tail, body, and rotor collections. Absolute lifesaver. But this next test, this is the ultimate win. The creator was struggling with a super heavy photo-scanned Rolex model. Because it was loaded with subdivision modifiers, the viewport playback was chugging along at a miserable 7 frames per second. Manually turning those off is the worst, so he just asked Claude to code a custom Python button right in the UI to toggle them all off at once. Claude whipped up the code instantly, 1 click, and suddenly the project is rescued, playing back at a buttery smooth 24 frames per second. Just like that. And here's why you should care. Mastering this AI and Blender combo isn't just a neat party trick. It's highly lucrative. The creator pointed out a case study from his course where utilizing these exact skills helped close a client worth 4,000 euros a month. It just proves that automating the boring stuff has serious, tangible market value. Which brings us to Section 4, where Claude struggles. Because yeah, it definitely hit some walls. Look, the AI is far from perfect right now. When tasked with a premium dynamic camera move for a 3D iPhone, it started fine, but quickly devolved into this wacky, aggressive flipping mess. Plus, because of the heavy processing, the creator actually hit a session limit and had to upgrade to Claude Pro just to finish the texturing tests. It also completely dropped the ball on building complex geometry nodes based on mathematical timing rather than simple object proximity. So math is still a hurdle. These struggles get pretty funny when it comes to specific modeling tasks. The creator asked for a fully procedural lemon. Instead of using nuanced modeling tools like a human artist would, Claude got a bit lazy. It just generated a perfectly round UV sphere and slapped some noise textures on it. The result? Not exactly a photorealistic lemon, more like a weird, blobby, unconvincing sphere. Close, but no cigar. Then, the creator tried to see if Claude could basically replace him by feeding it a transcript of his own YouTube tutorial for making a strawberry. Total spectacular failure. The AI left unconnected map range outputs everywhere, and the overall shape was completely busted. The issue? Claude just can't access specific tools yet, like proportional editing, which you really need to gently sculpt the shape of the fruit. Finally, Section 5, the final verdict, automation versus replacement. Looking at this final audit matrix, the reality is crystal clear. For coding custom Python scripts and building UI buttons, Claude is an absolute powerhouse. Organizing those messy files, super powerful. Procedural text strings is decent, but right now it objectively fails at executing complex modeling tutorials or mathematically nuanced geometry nodes. So, the big question of the day, can Claude just one-shot an entire complex 3D scene? The answer is a definitive no. It simply cannot replace a skilled 3D artist when it comes to detailed structural modeling, precise animation timing, or complex node math. At least, not yet. And that brings us to the ultimate takeaway from this explainer. The real superpower here is automation, not replacement. You absolutely shouldn't rely on Claude to model your perfect procedural strawberry or direct a high-end commercial animation. But you absolutely should use it to kill the tedious grunt work. Let it rename dozens of layers, group your messy assets, and code your UI buttons. Think of it as a highly capable assistant, not your art director. Which leaves us with a pretty fascinating thought to wrap up on. This model context protocol is just in its infancy. As this bridge between AI and 3D inevitably evolves to conquer those missing modeling tools and complex tutorials, what is the very first boring, tedious bottleneck in your workflow that you're going to hand over to the machine? Something to think about the next time you open up a project. Keep experimenting and keep learning.